I'm actually going to be streaming this Zoom meeting live on YouTube, so hopefully that'll automatically save things immediately. Good time to practice right now on our intro day. Okay, awesome. Streaming this Zoom. Okay, I don't want to listen to us. I'll close that. Hopefully it's working. Okay, we got one more person coming in. We're good to go. So I hope everybody got a good rest over break. But if your breaks were stressful, then I hope you're enjoying being back and being ready to go into a new term. I'm kind of excited myself to have a bit more structure coming up. I think A&P II is going to be good. You guys all made it here. I'm super proud of you. Congratulations. And we're going to get through this semester too. It's going to be great. The course is going to run pretty much the same as last time, so I don't think we need to go over the syllabus in super deep detail, but I do want to make sure that we get the basics squared away so everybody knows where they're supposed to be, where all the different materials are, so that things can run kind of smoothly. I know at the beginning of last semester, there's a lot of confusion with labs particularly, so I want to go over that. But first, a quick overview of what we're actually going to be doing in class. So for this semester, we're going to be talking about picking up with the organ systems, basically where we left off. So when we left off in A&P I, we'd been talking about the cardiovascular system, specifically that cardio part, the heart. So this semester, we're going to pick up with the vasculature and talking about the vessels that move blood around your body and the blood itself, so the actual cells in your blood. Then we're going to move forward into the respiratory system and talk about gas exchange in the lungs and how that gets to all your cells. We'll talk about the urinary system, which is really controlling like the salt content of your blood, among other things. Then we'll talk about the GI system and the reproductive system in our final unit. So this maps more or less to each of the exams. The first exam will be on the vasculature and blood. Second will be on the respiratory system. Third, the urinary system, which is mostly going to be kidneys. And then the final one will be on the GI system and the reproductive system. And then we'll have a short final exam, just like for last semester, that'll be cumulative towards major topics in all of these. Okay. So, course overview. Again, this is probably going to be pretty familiar, but we're going to be doing lecture here via Zoom. You should all have received a calendar invite for your Google Calendars. I don't know how much you guys use those. I use mine really heavily. And I have gone through on that and I've removed all the no contact days. So if you have accepted those calendar invites and you don't see, for example, on a Friday, a course link to this Zoom room for a Friday, probably means we don't have class due to the shifting of the spring break schedule to be kind of scattered throughout the term. So if you haven't accepted that invite, I recommend it. And if you see any errors with that, let me know, and we can get that sorted out. For my lab section, so people who have me either in the phys lab or the anatomy lab, I've also sent out calendar invites for the labs, because again, I know the lab schedule is pretty complicated. For those of you who have other instructors, I don't know that they're using Google Calendars for that. Do know the Brightspace website, I've heard, is not available quite yet. We had to merge a bunch of Brightspace courses into one big one, but that should be up tomorrow or Friday. Labs are not going to begin until next week, so you're not missing anything. Okay, so in lecture here, we're covering basically content from the textbook, right? We'll have weekly quizzes. Won't do one this week because we're going to have like one day of content. Exam weeks, you probably won't have them because you got an exam. You do have mastering A&P assignments for each chapter, and you're supposed to complete those in preparation for the topics in lecture. So have your textbook open, kind of skim through it as you do the mastering A&P, and try to start thinking of questions, topics you want to delve more deeply into in lecture in order to understand better. That's really the point of the mastering A&P assignments, is to kind of get you going. That's why you have so many choices so many opportunities to take those questions over again. It's because we know you haven't covered that content yet. This is in preparation for lecture. Okay, so lab stuff. Hopefully this will all be clarified soon once that website, that Brightspace page is open. But the basic thing is for this semester, all the labs need to meet synchronously. So that means that if you were completing any of the labs kind of on your own time last semester, you can't do that this semester. You really do need to attend lab. And the reason for that is largely because physiology lab is going to be based around projects. You'll be in groups and you'll be completing your own independent experimental research projects, which you can't do unless you're all together during the same time block. Okay, so you have to meet synchronously. The schedule will be up on the Brightspace page. I've also linked it in our course page here in the lecture Brightspace. And we'll take a quick tour around the Brightspace in a second. So I'll show you where that is. You'll have alternating weeks, physiology lab, which will be 2 hours. So you'll be doing your experiments. And the other weeks will be anatomy lab. You'll be assigned 1 hour again because of the room caps for the in-person labs. And this time, instead of having everybody sign up for them on that webpage, because again, I think that created a lot of confusion for the lab schedules, your instructor will just assign you one of the hours based on that 2 hour block that you registered for. And those labs will work the same as last semester. So you'll do a pre-lab ahead of time, you'll do an online quiz after lab, and there'll be an online practical at the end. Okay. So I'm going to pull, no, we'll talk about the materials first, and then we'll go to the Brightspace course, and I'll show you where the Mastering A&P links are and the lab link. Okay, so for materials, my understanding is that you do not need to buy anything new. We're using the same textbook, right? If you guys got a physical copy, it might look something like this, right? Our human physiology textbook, which is linked to the Mastering A&P course, and an atlas for anatomy lab. We will be using Mastering A&P again, but my understanding is that that same code you purchased in the fall should work for 18 months because we're using the same textbook. So we're going to go ahead and try and make sure everybody can sign up for the Mastering A&P course. Okay, so this is my link to the Brightspace. Okay. So here in the Brightspace course, sorry, and give me thumbs up. Are you seeing the lecture Brightspace right now? Awesome, perfect. Okay, so we're going to go to content. And I've been piling basically all our links that we're going to need under this course resources thing at the beginning, right before Unit 1. So hopefully you've seen this Zoom meeting link or you got to it from your Google Calendar. Lecture videos will be linked in a YouTube playlist. So I'll just add this live stream to the playlist after class. And then you should see a Mastering A&P link. So hopefully this will bring you to a sign up for Mastering A&P. For me, it just brings me to the homepage for the course. So why doesn't everybody take a second and see if they can get that working? If you have problems, go ahead and type them in the chat and we can try and workshop some of them, or at least I can jot them down as things for me to update you on after class. And if somebody gets it working, go ahead and type that in the chat too, so that I know we're ready to move on. Okay, good. The links work. That's one of the things we're doing today in this first lecture is to kind of stress test this Brightspace, because I know sometimes we have trouble with links, with link visibility. I want to make sure we got it all squared away. Okay. Looks like a lot of people are getting it to work, which I am happy to hear. Oh, I got someone in our waiting room. Okay. Cool. Okay. So yeah, looks like everybody in the chat is working. If you have any trouble afterwards, after lecture, go ahead and email me, and we'll get in touch with the tech team, the IT people, and get you squared away. Okay, so your mastering assignments can be accessed here. They are also linked within the units themselves. So unit 1 is what we're working on now. So you'll see that you have links to the mastering A&P assignments with their deadlines as well under unit 1. They should also appear on the course schedule calendar. I made sure to add them, so I think they should be working. But if your calendar looks different than this, do let me know. Okay, so we got an extra credit mastering A&P review assignment. If you do it by Friday, you get the credit for that. And then we'll start out next week with our first content required mastering A&P assignment, which will be chapter 14 on the blood vessels. Okay. Going back to the course resources to make sure we got everything on here. Course technologies, that's just from the, that's from Scholastica. So that's probably in all of your different Brightspace courses. The lab schedule is for us specifically here. So if you click on the spring lab schedule, yeah. Anybody want to give me a thumbs up? Make sure that link works for you too. You guys all have access to this document. Maybe. Okay. I'm gonna talk about it briefly while you guys are testing that link. If you have trouble, pop that in the chat for me. Okay, but basically, all right, we're gonna have no lab this first week of class. So labs will begin next week. So the labs are listed by their lab letter. So that's what matches with your course registration. So you look for the courses you registered for, you should see a letter associated with your lab. Labs B, C, H, and I are entirely virtual. So both the anatomy portion and the physiology portion. And you can find that in the course catalog as well. It says whether your lab is synchronous online or whether it's in person. But I know off the top of my head, it's B, C, H, and I are virtual. And this indicates that, right, lab B will start with anatomy, as will lab D, and both labs F and G, lab H, and lab J. Everybody else is starting with physiology, and then we'll switch. This indicates where we have no labs and then how the schedule shifts afterwards. So again, if you are in my lab sessions, you should have a calendar invite reflecting all of this. If you're not, then I recommend creating a calendar for yourself just to keep things kind of on track. Okay, so the calendar looks like this. And if you forget what time your lab meets for the lettered labs, they're listed here at the bottom of the schedule. Okay. So the only thing that's not on this list is for the in-person anatomy labs where they've been split in half. It doesn't tell you whether you're doing the first half or the second half, but your instructor will get in touch with you on that. Okay. So I think that covers what we need to just kind of get going. Do people have questions about this stuff so far, about how the Brightspace is set up, how any of this lab stuff is going to work? No, pretty clear. Everything working so far? Okay. Oh, I guess one other change for those of you who were in my lecture section last time, instead of linking individual PowerPoints into the Brightspace, because that got a little messy in terms of the file structure, we now have a link just to an exam 1 materials folder. So if you click on this, you should have access to it. I did check the access for all these documents, but again, if you don't, just let me know. So this has all our PowerPoints in the order we'll go over them. So that's what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is. And then the outlines for the relevant chapters. So everything is just in this folder. I'm getting a question about the virtual versus online labs. If you are in a virtual lab but want to be in an in-person lab, or vice versa, you're in an in-person lab and now need to be virtual, we do have room in different sections, so we can talk about that. That'll depend on each person's individual schedule, but we can get that sorted away. Okay. I'm going to close this out. Great. Okay. So that said, I think that's all your kind of need to know immediate stuff. I'm going to get to the normal document here. Okay. So instead of reading the syllabus aloud to you, because it is exactly the same as last time, basically, other than a different schedule of events, I'm just pasting this link to the syllabus in the chat. It's also linked under the syllabus tab on Brightspace. So I think what we're going to do right now is just take a couple minutes to skim through the syllabus. Take a look. As you have questions, either pop those into the chat or call out. I guess the only thing that might be new to those of you who didn't have me before is that I'm doing the office hours just using my Google Calendar. That way I know who's coming and can provide you privacy if you need. And also it kind of just helps manage all of our schedules better than me having an empty Zoom room that no one comes to. This way I can set up ones in the evenings if you need and work around your schedule a little better. So that link is in the syllabus at the top. Okay. So hopefully that'll work for you guys and you'll be able to sign up for stuff. All right. So I'm going to be quiet. I'll let you skim the syllabus. Okay, I'm getting a question about the cadaver lab form. If you filled that out in the fall, you should be good, but I'm going to check with my lab manager, Luis. I think he still has those all on file. If I hear otherwise, I'll get back to you on that. And for anyone who does need to fill out that cadaver donation form, I'll make sure that when the lab brightspace opens up, that's noted clearly and in a obvious spot for everyone to find. All right. I think that means everybody's about here. Long syllabi. Okay. I guess an additional thing I can tell you while you guys are reading the syllabus is I'm trying a new email organization system for myself this semester. So I will let you know that I am planning on making sure I always check my email at 9 a.m. and at 6 p.m. So I do try to check right before class as well, in case there are any sort of urgent, I can't find this link, or my car won't start, although that's not an issue for virtual. But regardless of whether I'm reading my email the rest of the day, at those two times you should expect responses. Okay, so I think we should be good with this. As you go through this, if you come up with any other questions, please just let me know. The grading system is the same as last semester, so the same as for A&P I, but if you took A&P I in a different year, it might be a little different, so go ahead and take a look. I know the quizzes are relatively new, but we should be all good. Okay. So we are going to do one more thing before we shut down. So this is not, what we're about to do is not something that you need to worry about taking detailed notes on or being tested on the content here. But since this is an anatomy and physiology class, I think one of the fun and cool things is being able to actually relate this to real life, to pathology, to different disorders and conditions. So since we're starting out with talking about the vasculature and the cardiovascular system, regulation of things like blood pressure, I thought we'd start out with a little sort of case study on the kind of thing we'd hopefully be able to understand a little bit more about by the end of this first unit, and definitely by the end of the course. Now, you won't be an expert in neurology or any specific topic, but we should be able to sort of think critically about different conditions we encounter in the world. So we're going to watch a short little news segment. about one that I thought was kind of cool and related to some of the stuff we're about to do. So if you want to follow along, I'm posting the YouTube link in the chat. I'm also going to screen share as we play this here, but if you end up with trouble connecting due to internet issues, that link's in the chat there. Okay, so as we watch this video, I just want you to kind of make a note, either mental or on paper, depending how fast you can write, about some concepts related to A&P1 that seem like they're related to the condition that we're looking at in this video. Jot down or make a mental note of some additional topics you think you need to learn about to understand a little better what's going on in this condition. Then we're going to see a list of treatments come up on the screen at some point. And if you want to make a few guesses as to why these treatments work, that would really set us up for success in this future unit. And we'll come back to this at some point if we have time to talk a little more about this case study. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up now. I want to make sure I'm sharing my audio. Oh, I actually already had it up. Okay. I want to make sure I'm sharing my audio with you, so give me a sec. Share computer sound. Okay.
I was kind of finding my way down the stairs one night, and I just suddenly felt myself just sort of falling off the stairs and down to the bottom level of the house.
Today on Behind the Mystery, we're talking to Keith, his wife Linda, and how they're living with neurogenic orthostatic hypotension, or NOH. Never heard of it? Well, let's start with the basics. N, neurogenic, associated with the nervous system. O, orthostatic, related to standing up. H, hypotension, abnormally low blood pressure. In the studio this morning to help us understand this condition is neurologist Dr. Stuart Isaacson. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. We're going to hear from Keith and his wife Linda in just a bit, but first let's talk about what is NOH. I've never heard of it.
Well, NOH, as you just pointed out, is neurogenic orthostatic hypotension. And it's a condition that's not very common, but occurs in people who have Parkinson's disease and some related conditions called multiple system atrophy. And the problem with NOH is usually when we stand up, we release a chemical called norepinephrine. And this causes the blood vessels to constrict and the heart to beat faster. So blood pressure comes up and we don't feel like the blood pressure is dropping. We don't have feelings of lightheadedness or dizziness. Many people with Parkinson's disease, probably about 1 in 5, have symptoms from NOH. And when they stand up, not enough norepinephrine is released. And the blood pressure goes down and down. And they begin to develop lightheadedness and dizziness, and they might even pass out.
So in terms of how many people are affected, it's 1 in 5.
1 in 5 will have symptoms, and these may be provoked by dehydration or not feeling well or taking medication that may lower blood pressure. And then when symptoms come out, we have to pay attention to the symptoms. And one way we do this is we have people check their blood pressure. They can check it in the visit when they come to our office. They can check it at home. Often after breakfast might be a time of day when it's the lowest. They can keep a diary of how it changes around mealtime or after meals or when they're lying in bed at night. And when we find the blood pressure drops, we always look for a key point, which is at the heart rate. Usually when blood pressure falls and someone feels lightheaded, the heart rate goes up and up and up. But in neurogenic orthostatic hypotension, in NOH, the heart rate doesn't change much at all. And that's really a key for a doctor or nurse to make the diagnosis of NOH.
We recently spent the day with Keith, who has Parkinson's, and his wife, Linda. His diagnosis of NOH came several years into the onset of Parkinson's. Let's hear more.
Put great writing to work with Grammarly.
I promise I will skip through this ad as
assistant.
soon as it lets me.
Grammarly.
There we go.
Do you want some more coffee?
Sure.
A little bit of fruit?
Yeah.
Okay. Get the coffee.
It was 10 years after his Parkinson's diagnosis that Keith and his wife Linda noticed signs and symptoms of what would eventually be diagnosed as NOH. Episodes were sporadic.
You know, kind of stumbling as after being in a car ride or going up a set of steps. Why all of a sudden would you be dizzy?
That was the time when we thought it was just a periodic event that was happening every now and then.
The NOH diagnosis was a little bit more difficult because initially I just thought it was the other shoe that fell off with Parkinson's. Keith had a couple falls, not just down the steps, but a couple general falls, like, okay, does this mean this is what happens with Parkinson's? And we'd been educated enough to know that everybody is different. So we were also very fortunate that our general practitioner and our movement specialist spoke to each other. So between the two of them came up with, okay, we've got some blood pressure issues here.
Keith, a former pilot and self-described gym rat, has learned to manage his NOH symptoms. He makes sure to drink more water along with other lifestyle changes as recommended by his doctor.
The enemy is impatience. That sometimes you're in a situation where you don't know how severe your episode's going to be, and so I now have a routine where I get up and I give the blood a chance to and the blood pressure to equalize, and I've been able to avoid any mishaps, just following a simple set of rules.
They keep a blood pressure log and communicate regularly with their healthcare team.
Communication with your doctor is extremely important.
College sweethearts, the Halls have always been an on-the-go family. They're taking steps to help ensure they continue to stay active, even with Keith's Parkinson's and NOH.
When Keith's first initial diagnosis, to me, it wasn't devastating. I'm always taken aback when people say that. So to us, it was just part of what our journey was going to be. It might be tiring, but I think to have things move smoothly, and you do have to think about everything. So if you are traveling or you're going out, you make sure that you have your snacks and your water and your glasses, and it's just part of who we are and what we're doing.
And they're committed to spreading awareness.
I think the best thing is to look into what your local resources are. Support groups can be wonderful, but they also cannot be for everyone. Finding classes that you can either do together or finding your own thing that you can do.
Now, doctor, while you're not Keith's physician, can you relate this to how your experience has been with your patients?
Well, I think what we heard from Keith and his wife are that these symptoms come on very gradually. It's hard to sometimes recognize that they're new symptoms. He's had symptoms of Parkinson's for several years where he's had trouble maybe arising from a chair and walking and having good balance and movement. And now different symptoms may occur that can be confused with the mobility problems of Parkinson's. So it's important when you have any types of symptoms standing or after a meal to bring those up at a visit with the doctor and nurse and talk about how the symptoms may be different and may be early symptoms of NOH.
Now, doctor, once properly diagnosed, are there ways to manage NOH symptoms?
When they stand up, they should do it gradually. Sit at the side of the bed for a couple of minutes, then stand up, and before they walk, wait a couple of minutes. Sometimes squeezing the calf muscles or the gluteal muscles can help maintain blood pressure when they stand up as well. Some of our patients wear compression stockings, usually up to the waist, so it can really push the blood back from the stomach and also the legs. We tell our patients to remain well hydrated, to really concentrate on drinking a lot of water and other fluids and adding salt to their diet, especially drinking those fluids in the morning hours when blood pressure is lower. Some of our patients elevate the head of the bed when they sleep. And when they don't work, we have medications that can help as well. Our patients always have to talk with their doctors and nurses to make sure that whatever they're anticipating to do to try to treat this problem is done with medical guidance.
It's manageable, and that you can modify the response that you have to the NOH by being patient. You can live with it, and you can do well with it.
So, doctor, to summarize everything, what are the key things we need to remember here?
Well, I think it's important to realize that NOH is very common in Parkinson's disease. It's even more common in multiple system atrophy. And so whenever you have symptoms that occur when you stand up, always think that it could be a symptom of NOH and bring it up at the next visit with your doctor or nurse. And to make the diagnosis, the blood pressure has to be checked seated and also standing with the heart rate and make that diagnosis. Because the diagnosis has to be made so we can use effective management to try to improve the symptoms and not have people doing less and less activity, becoming isolated, becoming depressed, not going out and going about their day because the blood pressure is too low.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time and all the information you've given us today.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like more information on NOH, you can go to this website, nohmatters.com, or just check out our website, thebalancingact.com.
If you're applying to med school right
And we don't need that guy. Okay. I just realized that I probably didn't share these intro slides with you guys because we don't have any content that we're specifically covering today. So I'm just going to pop this in the chat real quick in case you want to consult back to any of this different information. We'll probably end class a little early, but I do want to give us a short chance to kind of discuss some of the things about this video. So I'm going to put us into breakout rooms for like 2 minutes and go ahead and with your group discuss these three bullet points. Sorry, getting a private message in the chat. I'll respond in a second. Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms for a couple minutes. We'll circle back and then we'll end class a couple minutes early. right, looks like I have one room coming back. All right. So to wrap this up, does somebody want to share, either call out or type in the chat? What are some concepts from A&P I that sounded a little bit familiar here, that sounded like they would be related to this condition? So for this first bullet point, after discussing, what did people come up with? Again, if you're afraid to call out, go ahead and use the chat. I think I've finally managed how to present at the same time as viewing that.
Our group just kind of talked about how it related back
No,
to
nobody.
the endocrine system, and because one of the things that really jumped out was them talking about the release of.
So some things that might have sounded familiar to you that seem like they might be related to this, right? We covered nerves already. So it was pretty quick, but the doctor here mentioned that this condition has to do with the nervous system, and specifically the neurotransmitter norepinephrine not working. Oh no, Alex is talking. I cannot hear you, Alex. Thank you for checking with me on that. Okay, let me switch my speaker. Okay, I think my speakers are now working. Sorry, can someone try talking?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I cannot hear anyone. So in that case, maybe we will end class now and I will go troubleshoot my speakers and make sure that they are working for next time. I'm very sorry. I was interested in what you guys had to say. So maybe we'll circle back to this on the beginning of Friday. Yes, Friday. Today is Wednesday. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed this anyway. I'm sorry I can't hear you. Take care, and I'm excited to get the ball rolling with you on Friday. I'm going to start by talking about a lot of sort of physics and pressure concepts, which is part of why I wanted to preload this a little with some actual clinical stuff that's going to relate to, because I know the mathy number stuff can be kind of a slog for some people. I promise it's going somewhere interesting. All right. With that, take care. Enjoy the rest of your classes if you have more this afternoon, and I'll see you then.